Welcome back to another day of living in the new house. Body is sore this morning, but it does not stop progress. We have been out to screw fix again. It's become a weekend morning ritual for me now. We have picked up more floorboard screws. We have picked up a tanking kit, as it's called. So this is like a waterproof layer you put onto your plaster and plasterboard when you're putting wet stuff in there. You could use that for wet grooves, but we're going to do it underneath ours, just around the bath, just to stop it leaking. That was quite expensive. That was about 63 quid just for that tub. So hopefully it's going to do the job. I also bought some corner bead for around the window, which you spoke about. Did a little bit of watching around on plastering onto brick walls before, because I haven't seen it. There was a guy who was doing some, what did he call it now? Basically, he stuck a couple of strips of plasterboard on the wall to try and make it flat, which I did think about doing, but I just think that's going to end up being more fast for the size of that wall. So I'm going to go for it to start with and just see if I can get it level with my arm and just see how we get on with. But to make myself life easier, I have gone and bought myself a derby, because I think that's going to be better for finishing the surface of the flat. So that's all done there. We've also bought a roller paint set kit, because I'm forever running out of paint brushes and I need a roller for that tanking kit as well, so we bought that. And we've also bought an extra big brush as well for going onto the brickwork. I now need to get started. So as I spoke about yesterday, the SDS is there, the area is clear and ready to go, and we are about to go slam that SDS into the wall and get all of the plaster on that wall, and then we can start looking at getting the first layer of hard wall up. So let's get on with it. My shoulders are dead, but we are got the worst of that all off. Elizabeth's come and help clean up, and she's just getting off the last little noggins and bits we can find, and then I'm going to use the wire brush to just knock as much of the dust off as we can. Now, I was thinking about stripping that back to brick as well. It is still semi on my mind, but actually this wall is pretty plumb and it's adhered pretty well, so I'm tempted to just leave that in as maybe a little bit of a guide and then just skim over it afterwards. But we're pretty much there. Now, one of the tools I couldn't find was a devil's float, as I'd seen online. Basically what it is when I put the hard wall in, we're going to want to scrape some keys into the plaster, so that when we put the finish on the top of it, it actually bonds into it and makes a one solid surface. Everywhere was out of stock, I couldn't find one. So, what I'm tempted to try and do is make one. I've got a little bit of stud work left. I've got some screws that are just going to stick out the other side of it. I'm going to put those through, and I'm going to at least have that off to one side as a temporary way of scratching some scores in the surface. If it doesn't work, we might have to use a knife or a screwdriver or something similar, but this might make our life a little bit easier. So we're going to make this rough and ready. If you look just along the edge there, screws are just poking through. Idea is now I can use that as a bit of a scratchy on the wall. Great stuff. Right, well, I think we're nearly there. We've just got some more prep work to do, which we'll probably do off camera, just in terms of tidying bits up. Tidy up those edges, and then I think we'll clean and vacuum the floor, get a sheet down, wet the wall, and then we're probably on for the first bit of plastering. So, wish us luck. Elizabeth has been through and de-dusted the walls and put some sheets down ready for plastering. We've got most of the tools ready. The derby's downstairs. My dad's rocked up. He's just getting the label off that. The last thing we just need to do now is get these external corners sorted. Now, this was classed as for rendering, I guess, when I was buying it from the shop. They didn't have any of the internal ones, so we're going to use it. We're going to see how we get on. So, last thing we've got to do is cut all these to length so they're ready to go. We're then going to put some plaster down the inside of those, squeeze those on, and then we are good for full-on, let's go for it, plastering. Now, what I may potentially do is leave the window edge till last, because I might want to put a bit more expanding foam around it just to stop with any drafts and everything else like that. But at least I want to get the front surface done so we can get on with the bath as the main thing. that is the first skim on. How did it go? I probably started on a more complex area than I should have done, given I haven't plastered in ages. On that one training course I did. Actually started off really well, so this area is not too bad. There's a couple of blemishes and stuff, and remember this is the first skim, so it's a case of just getting it on. The next one should hopefully tidy it all up. This area got a lot worse, especially trying to get into the corner where this stud is. I am a little bit concerned that's going to be a bit too rough and ready. But we're going to leave that to dry for like 20 minutes or so, till it's a bit more firm to the touch. Then we're going to use my handy dandy Devil's Hawk thing that I made to just key in the surface of it. And then we'll go for another skim. Now, I may have made another mistake potentially. We'll soon find out later on. Well, I had some material left, so I did the shelf, but I don't want to do the uprights until I've got some more expanding foam in these gaps around here, so I just left those be for the time being. I probably shouldn't have done that because that's going to make a mess when I try and do all of this later on, so we have to be really careful about how we keep that clean. But anyway, let's let that sit for 20 minutes and then we will come back for another skim a little bit later on. We've keyed that section, but it's taking longer than planned to drive, being it's getting a little bit dark and a little bit damp now. I've stolen the radiator from the bedroom to try and get some heat coming into the room to help with drying that out for a second. I may temporarily just shut the window just to get the temperature up a bit. But yeah, I don't think we're at the stage quite yet where we're going to be able to put the next skim on. So I think what we'll do is we will start chopping the bit of plywood that we want to put in that roof. So yeah, let's get outside and get on with that. What did we learn from this plastering run? So the bit I really struggled with last time is actually really good this time. I then went back and started playing with this side a bit, and I think playing with it obviously has ruined what I was trying to do. Again, this is like the last of the bonding coat, I guess, layer. So we have still got the final finish layer. So it is still going to hopefully get better, but I want to make sure I take the learning from that. Now what I did is I put it on, I filled the gaps, and then I just did really long smooth strokes all the way down well before it set. And when I came back to try it on this side, it was already gone slightly tacky. You can see even with the Derby where it started like lifting off and pulling away. Haven't quite got the hang of that yet. But we're going to park it there. I'm going to stop playing with it for now because I feel like I'm only ever going to make it worse. And then what we're going to go do is get some foods, go back to my parents and have a shower because, as you can see, I'm absolutely caked in plaster and walls and everything else. And then probably come back, maybe do a little bit more building on the roof section with some stud work we've got. I might do that while you're eating. And then that'll be it. Tomorrow we'll come back and we will PVA this whole wall, and then we'll give it a go with the final finish and hopefully take enough learning that it doesn't look completely dreadful. Again, we're tiling over this, so this is practice run. But I am at least trying to make it semi-nice is the main thing. So you join me back in my onesie, fresh back from my parents after having a shower. It's like 11:30, so we're not going to do any more. The last thing I have just done is I've inspected the plaster, and the good thing is it doesn't look like it's cracking. That radiator's been doing wonders, just pumping a bit more heat into the room. Like, as you can feel, it's just not as muggy in here. Muggy? Damp, I suppose, in here anymore, which is good. The last thing I just did is just re-keyed this surface ready for the next layer as well. And actually, I'm pretty pleased with it, to be honest. I know there's a few scuffs and marks, but as a finishing layer, it's okay. It's not too bad. Now, what I was concerned with, and I have just been sitting here thinking about it, was if you actually look at how plumb this is, especially on this edge, you'll notice there's quite a large sort of gap along that edge there. There's quite a large bow in the wall. But in reality, that's where the bats at the edge of the bath sitting, and we might have needed to scallop into the plaster a little bit in order to get that to work. So it's kind of played out quite well, because this side over here, if you look at this, is definitely a lot more plumb and flush. Again, it's not perfect, there's a little gaps and noggins, but as a first attempt, and given we're tiling over it, very happy. But anyway, it's been a good day of progress. We were supposed to be at the point where everything was back up and the bath was in here at this point. But given that we're having to plaster that wall and all the extra stuff we've had to do with treating floorboards and rot and joists and dealing with all of that shenanigans, we didn't get as far as we wanted to do. But I'm still very, very pleased with the amount of progress we have made. So we're going to have to keep cracking on with it during the week and see how far we get. I'm debating whether I prioritise rebuilding the wall first or doing the finishing coat on that wall first, because the next layer of plaster is going to go onto the paintwork as well, so we actually need to prep that surface, paint it, PVA the whole layer as well, and then put the finishing coat on. I feel it may be better to get the wall up first for two reasons. One of them being that if I, in my shenanigans of chopping into that stud and making it all right in that top corner, accidentally damage the plaster, then I'm replastering over anyway, and it's all good to go. And two, it gives a little bit more time for the bonding layer to actually just to go off, because it is so damp in the UK at the moment. It's just not drying as quickly as we would like. But anyway, happy with today's progress. Think we're making solid progress. Feel like this is the last of the demolition upstairs. Hopefully, fingers crossed, and it's just a case of putting everything back together now. There should be no more knocking things out, with except for maybe those tiles up there, but we'll find something else to knock out, don't worry. But yeah, very happy. Anyway, we hope you've enjoyed watching. I know there have been time-lapse heavy vlogs. Please do consider subscribing for the time-lapses. And we will catch you all in tomorrow's vlog. If you can't tell, I'm quite tired, hence why the words aren't coming out the right way. Anyway, I'm going to bed. Good night. See you tomorrow.